The agent had called. Did I want to ride a horse naked on live TV? She would make sure my horse wasn't drug tested, so I would win the race. The prize? My dignity. I declined quickly. My bedroom in near darkness. I was wearing a bathrobe. The words, "I am bad," embroidered on the breast. A conscious rebellion against my mom's opinion of me. I returned to the soap episode one had been watching on a laptop. Cornflake World. In today's episode, Mick, a bald moron, terrified by the intensity of his own feelings, had taken his 11-year-old son to a boxing gym to toughen him up, the kid throwing half-hearted jabs at a punch bag until his father exploded, berating him the whole way home. He would never survive. The other kids would eat him for breakfast, transferring all his fear and trauma onto him. The kid inevitably growing up conflicted, leaving the moment he could and creating a happy life for himself before making a fatal mistake. Going back to Cornflake World because, well, family. Pointless, shouted arguments in box rooms and tiny kitchens following with his father about why he had never been understood, a brief thawing in the relationship, because shouting at someone is the only way to be heard, right? Before the son died in the Christmas Day episode, plunging from a rooftop onto the cobbles, having climbed up there to proclaim his freedom, or stabbed to death in a case of mistaken identity, or hit by a car driven by a guy who was momentarily happy, Mick unable to punch himself in the face for refusing to not be so ignorant, punching a guy at the cemetery instead. The two men falling into the open grave, Mick demanding onlookers grab shovels and bury them alive. Mick's boiling red face, popping back up through the earth for a desperate breath as the credits rolled. I turned it off, went back to the podcast I was listening to, a posthumous celebration of a comic novelist by a group of people who had met him, liked him, and spoke warmly about his humor and generosity of spirit. The novelist had lectured briefly at university, his seminars casting a critical eye over famous authors and books you felt obligated to read, treating undergraduates to favorite passages, championing their brilliance, highlighting the failure of a sentence or a paragraph here or there, but always from the perspective of a guy with nothing to prove and a genuine love of words and language that shone through. My father, in contrast, had created a library at home, filling it with books he hated but thought would make him look good, padlocking the door to this domestic treasure trove whenever I displeased him. He had only ever given me 2 books. The first, Now You Get to Watch Me Win, a business manual. The book was all voice, opening with the narrator preparing to float his company on the New York Stock Exchange before retracing his steps over the preceding year. Making a list of every person who had ever doubted or disrespected him. He traveled across 27 states to visit them all at home and punch them in the face or, on 6 occasions, piss on their graves. These revenge scenes intercut with business bollocks bullet points or bullshit points you read everywhere, the text heavily annotated by my father. The second book, which my father gave to me without reading, titled Nancy, was the story of a closeted 1980s First Division soccer player with a liking for 2-footed challenges and the worst disciplinary record in the league. My father hoping, I think, that the book would inspire me to play for the soccer team he had begun managing on weekends. Instead, I found the player's eventual coming out scene a revelation. After telling my father about the book, he refused to speak or even acknowledge me for 17 days. I gave the book to a school friend to hide, so he couldn't throw it away.